1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Boop, 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 boop. That was my favorite. Some of that music was actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the time signature was weird. I can't remember what it was in now. It's like da 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 ba da da ba da da. It's like in 7.
I don't know. It's good. I mean, it's
Gung, 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 gung. Gung, 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 gung. I don't remember now. I think I'm adding stuff. But I do remember it was in an odd time signature. And they kept just like chopping off the ends of phrases. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Dun, do, 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 do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So whatever that is, I can't count and sing it at the same time.
It seems like 4/4 with just weird. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11? 4?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11? Yeah, I think it's 11. 11 or 12, something like that.
I think it's 11/4.
It's crazy. And then they had like a ripping sax solo or something like, six. Six.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, like, they must have like some crazy jazz group that's just like, hey man, you guys want to like make some music for a TV show?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Like, oh wait, is this for kids? It's like, it doesn't matter. You just do your thing.
You do your thing. Again,
it just has to somehow have to do with numbers. I'm like, okay, well, if it has to do with numbers, we should make this in like several time signatures. Like, dude, you do your thing.
We'll cover all of it.
Yeah, and that's the right way to do it. Like, you don't talk down to kids. You just you just do your thing, and they'll get into it.
There's no such thing as children's music. Trust them; they'll get it.
Well, there is such a thing as children's music. Yeah, and it's terrible.
It should never happen. It should never have happened, and should be banned as just like a war crime.
Have you heard of Casper Baby Pants?
Nope. God. What? What is this?
Casper Baby Pants. Originally, I think it was the guy who is behind Presidents of the United States of America. So they're the ones that sang that millions of peaches, peaches for me, that song. Anyway, the main guy split off and decided to start making children's music. But it's basically the same thing. I mean, it sounds a lot like Presidents of the United States of America, but it's just for kids. So instead of talking about cats meowing and eating a bunch of peaches, they talk about frogs hopping.
You know, they were fine. Kids get peaches.
Yeah, there were some double entendres there, though. I think that might not have been super appropriate for kids.
It's always weird when I learn about those. I'm a pretty literal person when it comes to stuff. I'm like, oh, come on.
It's a song about eating peaches. How can that be dirty?
How could that be? Yeah, I mean, like WAP. And I'm like, wait, that's dirty?
What's WAP?
Wet ass pussy.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's not about cats. No, that wasn't the one that I actually had a problem with. There's a thing called Watermelon Sugar High.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh my God, you almost never get bubble gum anymore. You know, we're just talking about like a guy at a picnic getting, I assume that it came from some sort of party. And then, you know, they wrote a song about it. But nope, that's also sex.
A watermelon sugar high? I didn't know that.
Yep. It is a sex thing.
I don't know. There's a certain point where maybe you're just too old to be able to understand these references.
Oh, all you have to do is watch the video. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. I thought this was about like kite flying and happy fun times. And it's like, oh, Jesus. Nope, that is definitely no.
Well, if it just takes the video to contextualize it, can you do that to any song?
I don't know.
Like, can you take Let's Go Fly a Kite from Mary Poppins and then all of a sudden make that like a dirty entendre?
Clearly, I guess. Please don't. Please don't. These
ideas
are dangerous. These ideas are dangerous and they should not be let out.
Well, you know, we're just putting them out into the universe, just blasting them out there. Should somebody happen to do it, you know, we're not encouraging it, but, you know, send us a link.
Cue the music!
Coming to you live from the great indoors of New York City, I'm Bryan Teoh. Joining me today from Green Bay, Wisconsin is Kevin Macleod. Together, we'd like to welcome you to Composerish, where we discuss issues facing modern working composers. Sometimes.
I spent a good day of my day doing research.
Research on what?
On Lofi Hip Hop.
Ah, great.
Yeah, I took lots of notes and figured out lots of stuff. And there's a couple of like major compartments I found. Do you listen to the Lo-Fi? I'm guessing we all do.
I think pretty much everyone does at this point.
We're all on Chilled Cow.
Yeah. It's just like whenever you're listening to music that is stuff that you don't want to actually have to pay attention to, it's perfect for like background music. But Yet people put an awful lot of effort into this, I think. So it's funny that it's something that people don't really listen to. They listen to it to not really listen to it.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's hard to do right, I think.
Right. And it is perfect study music because it's got like a good beat. It's repetitive enough that it like, you know, it doesn't force you to pay attention. It's not super dramatic, but it changes enough so it doesn't get stagnant and repetitive and kind of boring. It's great. It's like really good for just as advertised chilling out. I like it for cooking.
Cooking. That's, yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially like maybe baking or things that take a while.
Yeah. Just have some good cooking music.
That sounds solid. Yeah. I use it just for, you know, sleeping and relaxing. I don't study. Well, actually, I was studying, but I was studying it. So that's recursive. I don't even know if that counts.
You listen to lo-fi hip hop to study lo-fi hip hop.
Right. You absolutely have to. Pretty much.
Fair enough. So what sorts of things did you learn that you didn't know already?
Okay. There are people who are really good at jazz and basically just put together jazz arrangements in that genre. They're rarely like chopped and stacked and repeated like more of the electronic ones. So there's a more electronic one, and then there's more like, you know, you can actually hear a saxophone player do a through line and like a real one. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's completely different ways of manufacturing the music, but it all fits into the same soundscape. You know, you've got one guy on a Fender P bass, and then you got another one doing sine wave bass kick notes. So
right. But at some point, that just becomes hip hop.
Oh, yeah?
That was like a thing in the 90s, wasn't it? Like the jazz hip hop thing. And you had like lots of groups like the Roots and stuff that were doing their thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was in a hip hop band when I was in college, and it was just a bunch of jazz musicians. You'd get together to play a party, and you basically just improvise over one chord. Or like two chords. And then we get like a guy to freestyle over the top, and you just rap over like these jazzy hip hoppy beats. I think that it's widely acknowledged that the progenitor of the style is Nujabes, who did music for, I think it's Samurai Champloo, right?
Wow. Talk about throwing me two things I know nothing about. This is an opportunity for learning. Who? What?
I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but we're just going to say Nujabes is a Japanese producer and DJ and whatever. I don't know if he's the guy that created this style, but he made it super popular by writing chilled out, super jazzy hip hop type stuff for a show called Samurai Champloo.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of, I think, where a lot of people glommed onto it. They're like, this is a really cool sound. Now, I'm guessing that he was probably part of a scene, like a very small group of people that did this sort of thing, but now it's exploded, largely because of that show, because it was on Adult Swim or whatever they called it, the anime hour. They call it like Toonami or something like that.
Okay, sure.
He unfortunately died in a traffic accident, I think, in 2010.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, then there's a ton of people started doing this style of music. They would take like samples from jazz records and stuff, and then recontextualize them, chop them up to change maybe some of the chord progressions and the melodies, and then put some like super dusty beats behind it and call it a day. And then since then, it's kind of expanded and grown. And I've noticed the same thing that you have, that there are an awful lot of people who are jazz musicians who are now like making their own stuff instead of chopping things out of records. I always thought of it this way. I was like, if you are like killing it at jazz, you are probably just going to play jazz. But if you like kind of know some jazz, but you're not necessarily particularly amazing, you could do some awesome lo-fi hip hop. Because it really just takes like some rudimentary chord extensions and some knowledge of basic jazz harmony, but you're not going to get super complex. Like you don't hear people ripping bebop solos over lo-fi.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't hear people ripping bebop solos because I can't. It's too much. It's a lot of notes, man. It's a lot of notes, and I have not learned to relax and accept them as phrases.
Maybe that might be your problem, is you can parse it as like a phrase, but I think sometimes it helps just to kind of listen to it as like a tapestry of notes. It's like this wall of sound.
Yeah, but I'm also the kind of person who like goes to a cathedral and is boggled by the number of bricks. I'm like, Kevin, we got to keep moving. I'm like, have you seen?
Hold on.
Look at all of them.
7, 8, 9. No, it's just gonna be another second. 10, 11.
And that's just up to the first balcony. That's, oh my God. And then we times how many wide? Hang on, we can figure this out.
Well, and I suppose if it's got like a dome or anything like that, it makes it a little bit more complex because now you have to account for curvature.
Yeah, but I mean, you're rarely going to see bricks in a dome.
I am not the type of person who's paid attention to this stuff apparently, so I wouldn't even realize that whether bricks were in a dome or not.
Yeah, so again, bebop is not for me. My brain is not cut out for it. Which explains why I got a D in jazz. That was literally the worst class I've ever had in my life, and it was jazz.
They actually graded you appropriately, though. I mean,
Yes.
That's rare.
Poor. I did poorly. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe this just speaks volumes about where I came from. But in northern Wisconsin, I think it would have been impossible to get a D in jazz band unless you just skipped classes. But they were trying to be so encouraging of people learning music that like basically everyone did decently.
Oh, this was in college.
Oh, this is in college.
Yeah, jazz band wasn't graded in high school.
Oh, I don't remember if it was for me either.
Yeah.
But I think it was.
Basically, I learned, I think, 4 chord voicings, and then that was it. I'm like, all right, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to play. That was in high school.
You know, in order to learn it, it really requires you to listen to a lot of it and to transcribe.
Yeah.
When you're learning jazz, a lot of the times they start focusing on scales. But I think you just need to listen a ton and start copying stuff and then learn the theory later. I mean, it's just like writing music.
I don't think you need to transcribe. It's just listen and play back. Listen and play back. Figure it out. If you don't know how to notate, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. When I say transcribe, I mean understand the notes and learn how to play them on your instrument. But yeah, you got to listen, and then just start trying it out and copy your heroes. And then later on, once you have some stuff in your back pocket and you can kind of start chopping things up and shuffling them around, then you can be like, okay, why does that work though? And then learn the theory. Same thing with music composition. People are like, I want to write music. Where should I start theory-wise? I'm like, don't. Just don't.
Just seriously. Just start writing.
Yeah, you're going to kill everything. Theory isn't rules. Theory is just a way to understand music. But yeah, I mean, eventually it does help to learn it.
It's like, I don't know. If you're stuck in the middle of a song and you're like, I need a way to elevate this, you might want to learn about transposing to another key, the epic key change.
Yep. One of the problems that I have with some of the original lo-fi hip hop stuff or some of the older stuff when they Chilled Cow was first going is that a lot of the tracks that they would use sampled really, really popular songs, really popular performances of really popular songs. And so as soon as you'd hear like the timbre of the piano or a very specific chord voicing, it's pretty obvious what song it is that they're sampling, but then they chop up the chords so they don't resolve properly, and it always pissed me off. I couldn't do. I'm like,
oh man, I thought you were going down the other train there.
This is the chord progression for Misty, but it never gets to the B section. Or it's just like the first 4 bars, or it's like they just take out the 5 chord. I'm like, dang it. You don't hear as much of that anymore, but I wonder if maybe some of the record companies started cracking down, or people wanted to try to monetize it and they knew they couldn't sell it if they took like famous samples.
Right. So, I don't know.
It seems like there is a lot more original recorded content, or people are being sneakier about it.
Yeah, if they can't catch you. And also, that's literally transformative. If you cannot figure out what the piece was, you're safe. Well, they'll still sue you for everything you have, but you might win because you're legally correct. But I don't know. I'm not counting on it.
Right. Also, if you're making a career making lo-fi hip-hop, you probably don't have very much to sue for anyway.
No. Yeah, maybe.
It's a super cool style of music, but I'm under the impression that nobody's really killing it in that genre because so much of it's for free. You just go on YouTube or whatever. Like, I don't know how much money people are getting from Spotify plays.
And also ads on YouTube. I'm sure they have ads, or they're getting a part of my $10 a month that I pay to YouTube.
I was going to say, have you ever seen ads on any of those? Because like a lot of them are streaming.
I haven't seen ads in 4 years.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't pay for YouTube, so I should see ads, but I don't think I've ever seen ads on the long live streams unless they make me watch something beforehand. In which case I forget, but I've never seen something like interrupt the stream. And sometimes I'll stick it on and just leave it going for like 3 hours. So,
all right. On one end of the spectrum, we've got the jazz people doing their jazz thing, and that stuff sounds great. And on the other end of the spectrum, we've got the choppy uppy people who know how to manipulate a thing. But I do have problems with the choppy uppy people sometimes because their beats don't match. They don't.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do like weird triplet things or like 12/8.
The one that infuriated me most recently was like, because sometimes you put a hi-hat like deep in the swing groove, but this was so deep in the swing groove it wasn't chop it up into 3, it was back into 4 with like a dotted 8th 16th. It sounded military.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're doing this one wrong.
I think that might be like a misunderstanding of swing feel. They're like, oh man, it's jazzy. So you got to make that beat late. And then they go straight into that dotted 16th instead of the actual like triplet.
I guess if your DAW only has duple, what do you call that?
Subdivisions?
Duple subdivisions, yeah. It's like, well,
Old school drum machines have swing feels. I mean, there's got to be a way to do it. Or play it in live, or zoom in, take off snapping from your DAW, and then drag the note until it sounds right. I mean, this is where the work comes in.
What if I'm making it on my phone?
This is what separates the children from the adults.
Sweet. The other thing that I learned, the big thing that I learned is I've made like 3 or 4 tracks in this style. And if you compare me to any of the like really good people in the style, I am just terrible at it. I do not have the feel of the jazz people. I don't have the chordal structures of the jazz people. I don't have the patience of the
chill people.
Of the chill people. And you can identify that the music I make is of that genre, but it is definitely lower half quality.
You know, I've never really pegged you as a hip hop guy either. So maybe this is just like all 3 genres that are like not necessarily Kevin's strong point.
Yeah, they're not
coalescing.
They're not doing well. I do better at trap, actually.
I really like trap. Yeah. I think the percussion is really interesting. Is that the dorkiest thing to ever say? I think the percussion in the trap music is really interesting.
Let's talk about why the trap percussion is interesting. Because now we're using different sections of speeds of things as a kind of a note.
Or using the hi-hat to subdivide the phrase, and so you could really push it, pull it like a rubber band.
See, kids, this is why you should never, ever study theory. You'll talk to people like this.
Changing your perception of the ontological time. Though the ictus remains solid, the syncopation is constantly moving around in the phrase. And I think it's that tension that really creates the interest. Yeah.
Stupid. You're out whenever anyone mentions the ictus. Like, that's just...
the ictus. Or start talking about things in quavers. Because that's not even really that advanced. It's just British, which makes it sound smarter.
Yeah.
Play this in a semi-quaver.
No.
Dork. You know, sometimes with the jazz guys, I think some of them miss the point. Like, I think some of them try to make it a little bit too complex because they're too into the jazz aspect of the lo-fi hip-hop. And I always felt like the lo-fi hip-hop kind of... The lo-fi hip-hop, God.
The lo-fi hippity hops.
I always thought the lo-fi cowboy hip-hop. I always thought lo-fi hip-hop leaned a little bit more into the hip-hop than it did to the jazz. There was like jazz sensibilities, but it wasn't, you don't really have to understand the theory to a point. I do have some gripes about other things. So now that people are recording their own instruments and they're kind of trying to put together their own arrangements instead of necessarily sampling the masters, there are a couple things that I've noticed that have really bothered me. Mostly, if you're playing a lot of extensions, or if you want to do really dense chord voicings, you kind of have to do them in the upper end of the chord.
Yeah.
You can't really do that in the bass.
Oh.
And sometimes I hear like these really muddy things where like there's all these chord extensions that are technically correct for that harmony, but they're like too low, like in the mid to low range. Yeah. And some of these are like, there's like semitones and stuff down there. So they're just like kind of warbling and clashing. And it's a weird thing. Like when it's low notes, you got to kind of stick to like octaves and fifths, maybe a fourth or whatever. Sixths would be maybe okay. And then as you go higher, you can kind of make the voices tighter and it'll sound fine. But tight voicing is down low. Like, ugh. I'm not going to say you can never do it, but you have to do it with care, knowing that it's going to be problematic.
How do you listen to them? You say while you're cooking, do you got like a little speaker there, or do you got headphones, or what's your?
I have a really good stereo system in my living room, and that's what I play it on. And my kitchen is just kind of down the hallway because I live in a tiny New York apartment, so I can hear it from there. I've been trying to find a way to pipe any audio that's coming from my stereo to like a Bluetooth speaker or a Wi-Fi speaker. Wi-Fi would be ideal because I've got Wi-Fi all through my apartment. I'm pretty sure Bluetooth wouldn't reach around a corner without like some sort of repeater or something. But I listen to vinyl, I listen to CDs, I listen to my iPod, I listen to a bunch of stuff, and any of the solutions that I found that might be able to do this are like smart things. Right. So they won't take an analog signal. You have to be listening through Spotify or YouTube or something like that.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't always listen to Spotify and YouTube. I have a lot of music in my own personal collection, and I listen to that stuff. So I would love to be able to find a speaker solution for my kitchen, but so far nothing.
Got it. Yeah, normally I listen to it at like super low volumes, except for today during research. I probably shouldn't have done that because I don't think people blast lo-fi chill.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think that's a thing.
Because let me tell you, there is some bass. Like when you get like a sub just roaring on that, just like your entire head vibrates on those low sine waves.
Yeah, one of the problems with mixing it is that it's so fuzzy because you end up EQing down a lot of stuff from the top end to make it kind of fuzzy and dreamy.
Yeah.
But then it can get really muddy in the mid to low end. So I would imagine if you're cranking it, that might just kind of stack.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I thought it was nice and appropriately brain warming. It has a brain warming feel. It's the good feels that come out,
You had given me an assignment. We had spoken kind of about this just tentatively previously, and I was talking about pitch drift. Pitch drift is really important for lo-fi hip-hop type stuff because it's like that analog technology is kind of unstable, and there's a lot of ways to achieve it. I have seen people actually remove the top of a VCR and they record their audio to VCR tape, and then they play it back and record that while they're kind of touching the playhead.
Oh, okay. So you spin down the heads? Yeah.
That's a pretty hardcore way of doing it, but that was like a mastering technique. But you can do it in software.
Okay.
We were talking about potentially being able to LFO modulate anything. And if you're in Logic, boy, do I have good news for you.
All right.
It's actually pretty easy. We're going to start a new project and make a new MIDI track and then load that up with whatever instrument you see fit. I like using the Fender Rhodes, so I'm just going to do that.
I was thinking that I had to do it to an audio track. You can do it live?
Oh, you can do it to, you can do it to MIDI.
You can do it to a MIDI track. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to end up doing just because that's how I've done it.
Okay, sure.
And then you're going to go to add an audio effect. Scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says audio units.
Okay.
And then go to Apple. Now, I don't know about you, but I never use the Apple plugins almost at all.
They're not pretty.
But their plugins are actually pretty good. So
now
that I found this one, go to AU Pitch.
Okay.
And this is a much more flexible pitch shifter than the one that comes with the Logic stock plugins. You can pitch bend the crap out of things, which sometimes if you want like to create the sound of like a record spinning down or something like that, you can do really dramatic, or you can do like just tiny amounts of like cents or whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
So now that you have the audio effect on there, if you grab that pitch wheel and move it up or down, that should change the pitch, but we want to automate that.
Okay.
So you're going to go to the MIDI effects menu on that same track, and we're going to add a modulator. And this is basically a low-frequency oscillator, and it's also an envelope. You can choose which one you'd like, or both.
Or both, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that just manipulates data. And what is up to you? So we got like right now it starts off with like a classic triangle wave.
Okay.
We'll just keep it at that for now.
It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down.
Yep.
A couple times a second, maybe.
Then down towards the bottom of this modulator plugin, there's going to be a thing that says 2 and a drop-down menu. Click on the drop-down menu, and you should click on Learn Plugin Parameter.
Okie dokes.
And what this is going to do is basically allow you to select anything that you want to have the LFO control. So now you go back to your pitch plugin and grab the little pitch wheel and just give it a click.
Oh, now that's it?
That should be it.
What's it sound like now?
Yeah. So this is a Rhodes thing that I recorded before.
All right.
And this is the Rhodes thing with the pitch bending effect on it.
Well, it sounds like it's doing the thing.
Yes, it is.
All right. That was a lot less than the 40 minutes that I tried to do things and failed with.
Right. I've moused things before where I've used this plugin, but then I've like scrolled into the automation and like had to like set the node points and everything. And I'm like, dude, I just want this to like go like every 4 bars drift down about a cent and then, or 5 cents or whatever. And then another 4 bars drift back up again and whatever. So you can do this all with this plugin.
But it doesn't drift the tempo, right?
No, tempo is all the same. This is just drifting the pitch.
Okay.
So I think the way that it works is it's sampling the audio. Then it's taking little chunks, what they call windows, but they're like tiny slices. And then they either slow down or speed up the playback of those pieces.
Got it.
But they're like bricks in a wall. So they're like like the little chunks that are overlaid. So even though like one is slower, one is faster, because they're smoothed over, it just sounds like one continuous tone.
Bryan, you had me at bricks in the wall. Like, yes. Yes.
So the nice thing about this technique is also you have that envelope section, which means if you hit any note, it'll play like an ADSR envelope that you can use that to control things on effects as well.
Ah, right.
I have not messed around with that at all yet, but now that I've kind of realized that thing is there, I think it requires a little bit of playing. It'd be really nice to be able to like have distortion at the beginning, like an attack of a note, but then have it like ramp down for the decay.
Right.
If you just want like a little bit like a harder punch or something.
So you can do modulator on trigger? Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I think I gotta go do a thing. I think I gotta go play with this like right now.
You're gonna go make like a pitch drifty
I
thing?
gotta go make like a pitch drifty thing. I mean, it's 2 plugins and then whatever you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, let's turn this up to 11. Just see how bad we can make it.
All right, so that's the trick of the day. I know that this is going to be a very short one because stuff and reasons.
Oh,
but
yes.
Cue the outro!
Cue the outro!
Cue the outro! I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you have any comments or suggestions of things you'd like to hear us babble on about, please feel free to contact us at composerish@gmail.com. Until next time, keep on writing.